It is just a noise. Boom. Sure, it is loud and it can be startling if it happens when you aren't expecting it. But why is it so scary? It is probably what that sound is attached to. An explosion. It can be defined as two different things. One, a sudden outburst of something such as a noise, light, or violent emotion, especially anger. Or two, a violent and destructive blowing apart of something as caused by a...
Welcome to Nightmare Town.
Hello neighbors and welcome back to Nightmare Town. We are Betty Boom.
And I'm Mandemonium.
And I already told you that you were listening to Nightmare Town, so that was a thing. My brain's not been working.
It's okay, mine's not either. Going back to work is hard after a vacation.
I have a new job, so that has been something that I have had to get used to, and it is a thing.
Yay, adulting.
I have a whole new sleep schedule, and hopefully school starting up next week is not going to mess with that. But yeah, that's actually why we are a week late, is because I had a new work schedule and I was sleepy. And Amanda is an amazing human, but also kind of an enabler.
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of it.
A little lot of it.
I like to call myself flexible.
Very much so. I would be like, hey, do you want to do this on Saturday? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, awesome. And then on Saturday, it's like, hey, do you want to do this on Monday? And it was the same thing. It was just a vicious cycle. This is why we need like a manager.
Yeah.
So if anybody is wanting to be our manager, go ahead and hit us up at
NightmareTown18
at gmail.com. We'll be accepting resumes and bribes.
Maybe candy too.
So much candy.
I
thought that would be the bribe. Unless you want to give me money.
I mean, I was thinking money, but I mean, candy's okay too.
I totally went candy. Okay, so this week's episode, which was actually supposed to be last week's episode, we are doing...
Boom!
Hope you guys liked our intro. That one was fun to do.
I thought it was pretty sweet.
Danke.
The new isolation setup you got going on here.
I do.
It's quite beautiful.
So the boyfriend and I recently had our anniversary, and he has been... The sound quality alone is all because of him. He was the one that got me my sound mixer. He's the one who got me my... I guess it's a sound shield? I think that's what it's called? I don't know. I'm going to put it on the Instagram.
He's like the quiet distributor for Nightmare Town.
Oh, he is. He very much is. He's also been... Well, we might be on Spotify soon, and that's because of him. And let's see. He's also working on a website for us.
Fantastic.
He's trying to figure out Patreon for us.
Man, just keep him working. That's great.
It's not even me. It's literally just like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about this. And then he was like, oh, I can figure out how to do that. And I'm like, cool.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
You do you. Love you, boo. Oh, fun times. But I guess that's enough of business stuff. Oh, Mandemonium surprised us.
Oh, yeah. Mandemonium's getting married.
Yes, she is.
Finally.
It's exciting.
We're very excited here on Nightmare Town.
We don't have a church here.
We're getting married outside in the woods somewhere.
Stay out of the woods. It's our first episode.
Yeah. I don't like to take advice. I'm just looking for good content for Nightmare Town, okay?
Obviously.
Maybe if I go into the woods, I'll come out with, like, a good story if I come out of the woods after we get married.
A Bigfoot story.
Bigfoot was our ordained minister.
That would be fantastic.
He's gonna marry us.
And then Mandemonium also surprised us with our very own cards. We have business cards, guys.
Yeah.
This is crazy sauce.
So, I don't know. I don't think I've ever mentioned it on Nightmare Town, but I try to frequent cons and festivals and things like that, peddling my wares. And so, if you happen to go to any of those, I'm going to have Nightmare Town business cards there. And eventually, we're hoping to have a booth space set up at future places just for Nightmare Town to promote ourselves, you know. Get the people listening.
You guys could come see us.
Yeah.
The person, in the flesh. I have flesh.
Just big bags of flesh.
Shh, don't tell my secrets. But, anyway, so this is my week to start.
Yes, so jump on in.
I've already kind of told Manda what I was doing because I had one thing picked out and I was really excited about it, and then I wasn't excited about it at all, and then completely changed gears and decided to do something else today. So
But I like what you've picked.
I do too. I decided to tell you guys about Chernobyl. As you know, we are doing Boom, and Chernobyl was a really big boom that affected a lot of people and is still affecting a lot of people. So let me just jump in. I also, while I was writing this, I realized that it sounded really, really sarcastic, but I like that about it, so it's what I'm gonna do.
Educate us, Betty.
I got a lot of this from Britannica.com. That's a book, right?
Yeah, it's like
Encyclopedia?
Encyclopedia Britannica. It's been a minute since I've had to use an encyclopedia.
Yeah. So I googled an encyclopedia.
Thanks, Google.
Thanks, Google.
Hashtag no response.
Hashtag one day.
Hashtag hopefully.
Hashtag do it.
We're cool enough.
Okay, here we go. It was all just an accident, an experiment gone wrong. They didn't know that shutting down a reactor's power regulating system and its emergency safety system, and withdrawing most of the control rods from the core while still allowing the reactor to continue running at 7%, would lead to a chain reaction in the core as it went out of control. No one knew that it would cause several explosions that would trigger a large fireball, that in turn would blow off the heavy steel and concrete lid of the reactor. Who would have guessed this, coupled with a fire in the graphite reactor core, would release large amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere, where it would then be carried great distances by air currents, all while a partial meltdown of the core occurred. And then, of course, the country responsible would come right out and say what had happened and by no means try to cover it up. Oh wait, all that happened. When do you think Chernobyl happened?
Man, don't make me guess history.
Oh no, guess history.
History was not my strong subject in school.
Just take a guess.
Can I phone a friend and that friend is Google?
Nope, just guess. Throw out a year.
I can just hear my mother screaming at me, why don't you know this?
I'm Ammonium. Hey, I didn't know this until today.
I'm gonna go with 60s.
So I was today years old when I found out that Chernobyl happened on April 27th, 1986.
Oh, okay. You know, no one's gonna believe me, but 80s was the first thought, and I was like, no, that sounds too early. We'll go with the 60s.
It sounds too early because it is too early.
Yeah.
It
was really in the 80s.
I had a sibling on the way. Like my eldest sibling, the eldest, was about to make his grand entrance. Because he was born in July of that year.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. My mother was pregnant when Chernobyl blew up.
Also, sorry, history buffs that might be listening.
Oh, you get over it. You know we don't do the research here.
That's just, oh yeah, we definitely don't research anything for this podcast. We just wing it.
It's like, I'll find a website to read.
Well, half the time I'm the one that finds a website to read, and you're over here like handwriting all of this amazing script here from your research. And I'm just like, I found a creepypasta.
Creepypastas are amazing, and those people are awesome for writing it, and you're just
Yes,
sharing
they
their
are.
art.
That's right. And you're sharing the facts.
Facts.
Historical facts. Alright, back to your...
1986.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was way too close to my timeline for a nuclear reactor.
Say my brother was born that year.
Exactly. Exactly. I should not have a sibling that is the same age as the Chernobyl disaster. They should have known better.
That's crazy.
So, but because of this, we also have, there are so many creepypastas and movies and TV shows that are about Chernobyl and all the things that happen because, you know, with nuclear war, there's mutations, which leads people to think about creepy things. And, let's see, there's a show on HBO, it was a miniseries on HBO that was called Chernobyl. Actually, when I was talking to people about this today, because again, did my research today, several people brought that up, and I started asking them how many gravestones they would give it. So, I was between 1 and 5 gravestones. Aunt Rhonda, who I have talked about many times on this podcast, she gave it 3 out of 5. Lynn, who has actually been on the podcast with us, gave it a 4 out of 5, but she also said she had only watched 1 episode, but it was really good. She just hasn't gotten to watch more of it. And Ian, who is a friend of the podcast, he actually sent us a picture of Bigfoot. It's on our Facebook if you want to go back and find that.
Oh, I saw that.
That's my boy Ian.
That was cool.
He gave it a 5 out of 5 and then also said, would do again. Because he is my friend and he has poor taste in jokes. So now I'm just going to go on to Britannica.com and I'm just going to read you guys the things that it said. I am going to skip a couple of the words that are obviously words I don't know how to pronounce because countries that are not English, Soviet Union countries, and all their funness. But on April 27th, the 30,000 inhabitants of, what is that? It's like PRYP, YAT.
Yeah, not even gonna try to touch pronouncing that one.
Pripyat?
Gonna say it wrong.
Pripyat? I don't know.
Sounds good.
I'm sorry, Soviet Union, that is no longer a thing. Began to evacuate. A cover-up was attempted. On April 28th, Swedish monitoring stations reported abnormally high levels of wind-transported radioactivity and pressed for an explanation. The Soviet government admitted that there had been an accident at Chernobyl, thus setting off an international outcry over the dangers posed by the radioactive emissions. By May 4th, both the heat and the radioactivity leaking from the reactor core were being contained, albeit at great risk to workers. Radioactive debris was burned at some 800 temporary sites, and later in the year, the highly radioactive reactor core was enclosed in a concrete and steel sarcophagus, which was later deemed structurally unsound. Some sources state that 2 people were killed in the initial explosions, whereas others report the figure was closer to 50. Dozens more contracted serious radiation sickness. Some of these people later died. Between 50 and 185 million curies of radionuclides, radioactive forms of chemical elements, escaped into the atmosphere. Several times more radioactivity than that created by the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan during World War II. This radioactivity was spread by the wind over Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine, and soon reached as far west as France and Italy. Millions of acres of forest and farmland were contaminated, and although many thousands of people were evacuated, hundreds of thousands more remained in contaminated areas. In addition, in subsequent years, many livestock were born deformed, and among humans, several thousand radiation-induced illnesses and cancer deaths were expected in the long term. The Chernobyl disaster sparked criticism of unsafe procedures and design flaws in Soviet reactors, and it heightened resistance to the building of more such plants. Chernobyl Unit 2 was shut down after a 1991 fire, and Unit 1 remained online until 1996. Chernobyl Unit 3 continued to operate until 2000, when the nuclear power station was officially decommissioned. 2000.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's so current.
It's terrifying. Following the disaster, the Soviet Union created a circle-shaped explosion zone with a radius of about 18.6 miles, centered on the nuclear power plant. The exclusion zone covered an area about 1,017 square miles around the plant. However, it was later expanded to 1,600 square miles to include heavily radiated areas outside of the initial zone. Although no people actually live in the exclusion zone, scientists, scavengers, and others may file for permits that allow them to enter for limited amounts of time. And speaking of this exclusion zone, so I thought I was going to get a really awesome article to read about this, but that didn't happen. It was just a really cool picture.
It was a neat picture, but
The Boston Globe had an article that came out on August 20th. We're recording this on the 21st. This was yesterday.
oh,
Of this year, talking about how the Ukrainian government is promoting the exclusion zone as a tourist destination. And I don't know if it's still on there, but it was for a little while. The boyfriend and I were watching a show that was called Dark Tourism.
oh, that's a good show.
It is, and I don't think he went to Chernobyl, but he talked about it. He went to another place that had high levels
really
of...
high, yeah.
It was terrifying. But yeah, people are paying money to get permits to go into these places that have been doused with, you know,
Radiation.
nuclear radiation. And it's crazy sauce. And I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, so that's the facts of what happened with Chernobyl. And there was this whole big thing of them trying to cover it up, is the thing that ticks me off, honestly. Like, that's
Yeah.
when you should just, like,
Little sketch.
call somebody and be like, so we did something bad. Like,
A lot sketch, actually.
super sketch. Like, there was misinformation that was put out, and then there was people that, like, they completely made it where the people that were in there couldn't get a hold of anyone else, and we're still not 100% sure what happened there and what happened afterwards, because if you watch the show Chernobyl, which I have not done yet, I had people give me, like, a really good rundown, though, is it's showing you supposedly what happened afterwards, even though the former Soviet Union is coming back and saying, no, that's not what happened. No, that's not what happened at all. Cough, cough, wink, wink.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
That's my plan. We should watch it together.
Sounds good.
Yay! Movie night! So that's just some of the stuff I found for Britannica. I found another website that's called livescience.com this is from June 20th, 2019, and it says Chernobyl, facts about the nuclear disaster. And they have some amazing photos on here too. I'll try to get these and put them on our Instagram. Yeah. They're sad. But again, I'm just reading this verbatim. This is not my own work. Please don't sue me. In the early morning hours of April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, formerly part of the Soviet Union, exploded, creating what many consider the worst nuclear disaster the world has ever seen. Even after many years of scientific research and government investigation, there are still many unanswered questions about the Chernobyl accident, especially regarding the long-term health impacts that the massive radiation leak will have on those who were exposed. Okay, so I'm not doing it verbatim. I'm skipping around. So sue me. It's my podcast. I'll do with it what I want.
Whatever.
What? The power plant. The Chernobyl plant used 4 Soviet-designed RBMK-1000 nuclear reactors, a design that's now universally recognized as inherently flawed. The RBMK reactors were of a pressure tube design that used an enriched U-235 uranium dioxide fuel to heat water, creating steam that drives the reactor's turbines and generates electricity, according to the World Nuclear Association. In most nuclear reactors, water is also used as a coolant and to moderate the reactivity of the nuclear core by removing the excess heat and steam, according to the World Nuclear Association. But the RBMK-1000 used graphite to moderate the core's reactivity and to keep a continuous nuclear reaction occurring in the core. As the nuclear core heated and produced more steam bubbles, the core became more reactive, not less, creating a positive feedback loop that engineers refer to as a positive void coefficient. The explosion occurred on April 26, 1936 during a routine maintenance check, according to the UN Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, the UNSCEAR. 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 Operators were planning on testing the electrical systems when they turned off vital control systems, going against the safety regulations. This caused the reactor to reach dangerously unstable and low power levels. Reactor 4 had been shut down the day before in order to perform the maintenance checks to safety systems during potential power outages, according to the Nuclear Energy Agency, the NEA. While there is still some disagreement over the actual cause of the explosion, it is generally believed that the first was caused by an excess of steam and the second was influenced by hydrogen. The excess steam was created by the reduction of the cooling water, which caused steam to build up in the cooling pipes, the positive void coefficient, which caused an enormous power surge that the operators could not shut down. The explosion occurred at 1:23 a.m. on April 26, destroying Reactor 4 and initiating a booming fire. Booming. Boom.
See what she did there?
Not even my words, their words. According to the NEA, radioactive debris of fuel and reactor components rained over the area while fire spread from the building housing Reactor 4 to adjacent buildings. Toxic fumes and dust were carried by the blowing wind, bringing fission products and the noble gas inventory with it. Radioactive fallout. The explosion killed 2 plant workers, the first of several workers to die within hours of the accident. For the next several days, an emergency crews tried desperately to contain the fires and radiation leaks. The death toll climbed as the plant workers succumbed to acute radiation sicknesses. The initial fire was stifled by about 5 a.m., but the resulting graphite-fueled fire took 10 days and 250 firefighters to extinguish it, according to the NEA. However, toxic emissions continued to be pumped into the atmosphere for an additional 10 days. That's 20 days. Most of the radiation released by the failed nuclear reactor was from fission production, iodine-131, cesium, Seism.
I'm not going to be saying these correctly, which is probably not good because I do have like 2 science classes I'm taking this semester. Maybe I'll learn how to say them there.
Yeah.
We'll see. Probably not. Iodine 131, cesium 134, and cesium 137. Iodine 131 has a relatively short half-life of 8 days according to the UNSCEAR, but is rapidly ingested through the air and tends to localize in the thyroid gland. Cesium isotopes have longer half-lives. Cesium 137 has a half-life of 30 years and are a concern for years after they're released into the environment. Evacuations in the area that was close to Chernobyl where these things were. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It's like PRIPYAT. Commenced on April 27th, about 36 hours after the accident had occurred. By that time, many residents had already complained about vomiting, headaches, and other signs of radiation sicknesses. Officials closed off an 18-mile area around the plant by May 14th, evacuating another, oh gosh, that's so many people, 116,000 residents. Within the next few years, 220,000 more residents were advised to move to less contaminated areas according to the World Nuclear Association. Health effects. 28 of the workers at Chernobyl died in the first 4 months following the accident, according to the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, including some heroic workers who knew they were exposing themselves to deadly levels of radiation in order to secure the facility from further radiation leaks. The prevailing winds at the time of the accident were from the south and east, so much of the radiation plume traveled northwest towards Belarus. Nonetheless, Soviet authorities were slow to release information about the severity of the disaster to the outside world. But when radiation levels raised concerns in Sweden, about 3 days later, scientists were able to conclude the approximate location of the nuclear disaster based on the radiation levels and the wind directions, forcing Soviet authorities to reveal the full extent of the crisis according to the United Nations. Within 3 months of the Chernobyl accident, a total of 31 people died from radiation exposure or other direct effects of the disaster, according to the NRC. Between 1991 and 2015, as many as 20,000 cases of thyroid cases were diagnosed in patients who were under the age of 18 in 1986, according to a 2018 UNSCEAR report. While there may still be additional cases of cancer that emergency workers, evacuees, and residents may experience throughout their lifetime, the known overall rate of cancer deaths and other health effects directly related to Chernobyl's radiation leak is lower than was initially feared. Some experts claimed that unsubstantial fear of radiation poisoning led to greater suffering than the actual disaster. For example, many doctors throughout Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union advised pregnant women to undergo abortions to avoid bearing children with birth defects or other disorders, though the actual level of radiation exposure these women experienced was likely too low to cause any problems, according to the World Nuclear Association. In 2000, the United Nations published a report on the effects of the Chernobyl accident and was so full of unsubstantiated statements that have no support in scientific assessments. According to the chairman of, I'm just going to call it Unshear. It was eventually dismissed by most authorities. So they also have another part in here that's about the environmental impacts, but I think you guys can kind of understand what's going on, even if you just go look up pictures. A lot of the trees and woodlands surrounding the plant were killed by high levels of radiation, and this region came to be known as the Red Forest because the dead trees turned a bright ginger color. They were bulldozed down, and then there was a lot of animals that got sick or had disformed offspring after this that were later, also put down. And then it says Chernobyl today. Today, the region, including within the exclusion zone, is filled with a variety of wildlife that have thrived without interference from humans, according to National Geographic and the BBC. Thriving populations of wolves, deer, lynx, beaver, eagles, boar, elk, bears, and other animals have been documented in the dense woodland that now surrounds the silent power plant. Nonetheless, a handful of radiation effects, such as stunted trees growing in the zone of highest radiation and animals with high levels of cesium-137 in their bodies, are known to occur. The area has recovered to some extent, but is far from returning to normal. But in the area just outside the exclusion zone, people are beginning to resettle. Tourists continue to visit the site, with visitation rates jumping 30 to 40% thanks to a new HBO series based on the disaster. And the catastrophe that occurred at Chernobyl resulted in a few significant changes in the nuclear industry. Concern about reactor safety increased in Eastern Europe as well as around the world. The remaining RBMK reactors were modified to reduce the risk in another disaster, and many international programs, including the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, and the World Association of Nuclear Operators, the WANO, were founded as a direct result of Chernobyl, according to the World Nuclear Association. And around the globe, experts have continued researching ways to prevent future nuclear disasters. The end. So yeah, them's the facts, as told by the internet and people I don't know. We're excited. Boom.
Boom.
Yes.
Well, as a very poor segue, I have some supposed facts, because these stories are supposedly true, or they could be, made up, because the internet. But the internet never lies to us though, right?
Who knows? Why wouldn't?
So I decided to go the ghost story paranormal route because I can't stay away from creepypastas and ghost stories. But I've got a couple here. This first one is just called The Mine. So if you can imagine. But you don't have to imagine because I'm going to read the story right now.
You could still imagine.
You could.
Use your imagination station.
Get the visuals in your head while I'm telling you this story.
I'm going to do it. Close your eyes. Are they closed? Blink once if your eyes are closed.
But no peeking though, keep them closed. So you can properly visualize.
Okay, eyes closed. Done.
Alright. I'm gonna keep mine open though so I can read, right?
That's fine, mine are closed.
Alright, cool. Okay. About 10 years ago, I would have been in my early 20s. Me and two of my friends decided one night to head down some train tracks and break in to an old abandoned coal mine on the outskirts of town. My friend had been there a week before exploring with a buddy, and so we climbed through a hole in the fence they had cut. This place was pitch black, and I had no experience with mining yards, so I could only imagine that these giant looming towers and silos were all around us. I could just barely make out these darker patches that were giant doors and holes in the structures. And hear scuttling noises beyond. Those noises could easily be explained as pigeons or bats, so we were not too fazed. So we continued to our destination. We knew that our town was surrounded by old World War II forts and bunkers, and there was one on a hill in the middle of the mine yard. As we slowly crept towards our goal, I kept hearing a small tapping noise. Yeah, kind of like that, Bella. Not too alarming, just a small tink, tink, tink coming from the dark behind us in the direction we had come. We make it to the base of the hill that holds the bunker and find some way to sneak around the only pole light in the yard and up the hill. The whole time, we keep hearing the soft tink, tink, tink behind us. Having made it up the hill and faced with the option to head into the bunker, us brave men decide to pass. A little too creepy for us, with no lights to find our way in or out. Instead, we decided to head around back, and this is where things get interesting. We find ourselves standing around a hole with a ladder leading down into a lower level of the bunker, with that relentless noise coming from somewhere out in the shadows. Now on two sides of us are the steep drop-off of a hill. On the other two sides are the walls of the bunker. We were boxed in on all sides with only a small path leading out, and with the hole and ladder and ground at our feet. So we decide this is as good a place as any to light our joint, and so I break it out. With my back to the drop-off of the hill a few feet behind me and the hole directly at my feet, I try. Well, I'm on top of a hill without much cover from the wind, and having a difficult time getting the joint lit, and I'm growing frustrated. Not to mention that tink, tink, tink is starting to get annoying. Up until this point, I assumed it was a metal sign hanging on the fence we climbed through, gently blowing in the wind, and so I ignored it. Frustrated with the joint and getting annoyed with the sound, I turned around and stared in its direction. I asked my friends what they thought it was and tried again to light the joint, but this time I was facing the noise and did not try to conceal the flame. As soon as the lighter flashed, the noise changed from a soft tink, tink, tink into a thunderous boom, boom, boom. I love some onomatopoeia. Oh shit, security guards is the first thing that pops into my head. That booming noise is them running down metal stairs in one of these dark towers. They saw my face when the lighter's fire illuminated it, and they're now on their way. All three of us crouch, halfway between fight or flight, and unsure if we should run, hide, or do nothing. We decide to wait. It's too dark for them to find us easily, and they're so loud that we'll hear them the minute they get close. Boom, boom, boom. The noise just won't stop, and I swear it's getting louder. How long are those stairs, I think? This is weird. And I swear I hear movement in the grass, in the darkness at the bottom of the hill. We all agreed it was probably just the wind in the grass. Making a booming noise, okay. Sure. It was time to sneak our way back out of this place. Slowly crouching through the dark, we move through the mining yard towards our exit when we run into a problem. Whatever is making that noise is in between us and the exit. We squat down in the middle of an open gravel road to try to figure out our next move. Safe in the thought it was just too dark for anybody to see us sitting there in the dirt. But just to be sure, we picked a spot that placed a large chain-link fence between us and that god-awful booming sound of the charging security guards. Now at this point, I decided to upgrade the guards to cops in my mind and was becoming a bit antsy, but we decided to wait them out. I guess at this point we all realized that none of this is making any sense and those guards or cops should have reached the bottom of those stairs by now. That's when things got weirder. With the boom, boom, boom in front of us and nothing to do but wait, if we want to use our only known exit, we start to hear something else. In the dark all around us, but somewhere close and on the same gravel we're crouching on, things start to move. There was a loud thud noise and then a slow scraping noise as something was dragged across the gravel. Then again from somewhere else, quiet but very close. These noises were all around us. Thuds, then a slow dragging across the gravel, but we could not really pinpoint in what direction they were coming from. At this point, I go from rational adult to scared child, and I think of all the people who died at this mine, or what could be living in those tunnels. In my mind, the noise went from guards/police, shot past ghosts, and now is smack dab in the middle of Goblin and Giant Rat Town. Of course, we have to get the hell out of there and decide that climbing the fence behind the mine, running into the woods, and making our way to the highway is our only option. And so we pick our butts up out of the dirt and sneak as fast as we can the hell out of there. We're making it. The noise is behind us and is not getting any closer, and we find rows and rows of empty coal train cars. Perfect. We can walk freely between them with no chance of being spotted from a distance, with the end of the mine yard close by, and with the protection of the train cars, we relax a bit and talk in less hushed whispers. I guess that was our mistake. A few seconds after entering the rows of train cars, the first car exploded in noise. Boom! Whatever was making that booming noise was right behind us, only feet away. I've never in my life, nor will I ever, I'm sure, move so swiftly again. The hundreds of feet between me and the fence to the outside world flew by, and I still do not understand how I got over the 10-foot fence so easily. I just remember leaping off of it into the dark. We make it to the road and head back to town. The road bends around the mine, and we can still hear that relentless boom, boom, boom of something smashing that train. My friends get too uncomfortable talking about it and seem happy to forget anything weird ever happened. But my curiosity drives me nuts, and I've gone back a few times over the years. Nothing out of the ordinary happened, and the last time I went by myself, everything was torn down and taken away. So I guess I'll never know.
Yeah, I'm gonna nope out of that.
Yeah, that's not a thing I would go back and re-explore, especially by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess some people have more cojones than I do.
That's how you die.
Yeah, they must not watch many horror movies.
Oh, when we're done with this next story, I have something to tell you guys about.
Ooh, okay, this is a short one too, so
Oh,
perfect.
Yay.
This one is just, I love the title, it's just titled Nice Guy Poltergeist. And I'm just thinking of the meme. I was stuck in a bathroom in a creepy house my family was staying at. I was home alone, and you had to force the door into the jamb to get it to close and latch, only to find out that the knob didn't work the latch. I heard the side door slam shut downstairs, and I thought, oh, my dad must be home. I called to him, Dad! Dad! I'm stuck in the bathroom. I heard him walking on the hardwood, through the kitchen, down the hall. Stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Dad! I'm locked in! I yelled. I immediately heard him run up the stairs and stop at the top. Once more I exclaimed, I'm locked in the bathroom! 4 more steps to the other side of the door. Dad? Boom! The door swung open and slammed into the wall. I stepped into the hall, and I looked around. Nobody was there. Nobody at all. I politely said, thank you, and just went straight to bed. Which I guess is the appropriate reaction if a poltergeist opens a door for you, but
I mean,
I'd probably be too terrified to move, but this is why I'm not in any of these ghost stories.
speaking of ghost stories, it made me think of, so I'm a very avid podcast listener. And when I get a podcast that I really like, well, actually anything that I start listening to, I'm very much a consumer. If I start reading something or watching something or listening to it, I'm gonna read, watch, or listen to all of it.
Oh man. Me too.
I recently started listening to and caught completely up with a podcast called Ghosts in the Burbs. It's fantastic.
That sounds cool.
It's amazing. You would love it. It's
I'm gonna look that up right now.
a
While we're
mom.
sitting here.
It's a mom of 3 in Rhode Island, and she's basically, she just really likes supernatural things, and it's fantastic. I'm not going to tell you guys everything, but I am going to give you a snippet. Also, hashtag not sponsored. But so it's this mom of 3, and she really likes ghost stories, so she puts up a flyer at her local library asking people for their ghost stories, and then she starts interviewing them. And then it's really great because it starts off just like that, and then as it goes on, it starts all interlocking together, and things are like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And it's just, like I had to have the boyfriend go outside with me to take Bella outside after dark because she needed to go potty, and I was not going out there by myself. That is how you get abducted by black-eyed children.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
I've not been able to sleep after a bout of listening to and reading about black-eyed children.
There is one episode about
Keeps
it.
me awake.
I think it's
Black-eyed children.
oh, and
Let me out.
but no, it's fantastic because like she has this kind of soft librarian voice, and then out of nowhere she'll just go, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Yes."
That's awesome.
Liz Sauer, I love you. Please be my friend. Message me.
Not to mention your podcast is Ghosts in the Burbs, and Our listeners are neighbors.
Well, not only that, she also says crazy sauce. She says my words.
If you ever find us, lady,
Oh, I'm gonna email
what's her
her.
name?
Liz Sauer.
Liz Sauer. We'd love to chit-chat with you. You sound like an interesting person. I just subscribed to your podcast.
Let me know when you get caught up so I can have someone else to like word vomit this onto.
Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you
excellent.
anything else.
Okay.
But I'm gonna shake this hat. Also, I rewrote everything to different pieces of paper. There you go.
Ooh. Crisp new paper.
Crisp new paper.
What's that? Is what we have on our paper. Whatever that means.
Whatever it's going to be.
Whatever we want it to be.
Exactly.
Because that's the kind of podcast this is.
But thank you guys so much for listening. If you have your own stories to tell or ideas for the hat, go ahead and hit us up at nightmaretown18@gmail.com or on the Facebook or Instagram, also nightmaretown18. You can also find us on, well, soon, I think you'll be able to find us on Spotify, which is really cool.
Yes, and if you are a YouTube person and you want to go back, we're slowly adding episodes onto YouTube as well.
Well, we're only going to be adding the ones that have our background music that we own.
Yeah, the one, yeah, the
So
music.
that way we
because
don't have to do that.
Copyright strikes.
Please don't sue us.
Yeah. Haven't gotten stricken yet on YouTube because it's our music, so.
And then let's see, there was something else. Instagram, find us over there. Oh, if you guys would go over to iTunes, if you listen to us on iTunes, go ahead and subscribe, like, and review for us.
Yes, please.
That would help us out a whole lot. And, maybe tell a friend. Yeah, sounds good. Tell a friend. Tell 2 friends. Also, we might be getting stickers made soon.
I was about to say, I'm going to look into trying to get that done. And also, in future podcasts, as the dates come up closer, I will announce some of the cons that I'm going to be attending. And if you happen to be at them, and I'll give you the name of my booth in future ones, and you stop by, and you're a Nightmare Town listener, take one of our business cards, and I might have just a little something small to just give to you. You can take a picture with our business card, post it up to the Insta, tag us,
That'd be wonderful.
I want to meet the people that listen to us. It's cool. We love you guys.
We do. Yeah, we love you guys.
Until next time.
Tell us a story. Bye.